My name is Joe. 20 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lake County with our 4 young children and settled down. In that time, we've worked, worshiped, played, and raised our family. Today, I've met the people and discovered the businesses and organizations that make up a vibrant, dynamic community. Join us as we share with you what makes South Lake great. I'm Joe, and Joe knows South Lake. Welcome, 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 and happy Tuesday. It is a wonderful South Lake morning, little humid out there. Look, I don't know if you noticed, but we did not post our 4 things today. We have something very, very important. Congressman Ross Spano is joining us today. In the midst of all that's going on, he's carved out some time in his very busy schedule. Now, I have to say that we have promoted this interview. Our intention had been to talk about the things he's accomplished in Congress and talk a little bit about his upcoming campaign. I will let you know that the congressman and I will be speaking about the coronavirus and some of the things he's managed to accomplish to help our state and help the nation. So we're going to get right to it because we only have a limited amount of time with him. There will be no commercial break until this interview is over. Congressman, if you want to put your phone back up, there you go. Welcome, Congressman Spano.
Hey, good morning, Joe. It's good to be with you, although it's obviously for everybody, these are some strange times that I can't recall us experiencing in quite some time, but nevertheless, it's an honor to be with you.
I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. I remember some flu things, but it never really affected our nation this much. Hey, for those that don't recognize you by face, this is Representative Ross Spano. He is our local representative to the House of Representatives in Washington. He is the congressman from the 15th Congressional District. He is also, were you a practicing lawyer before? I know that you were in the Congress for the state.
Yeah, so I practiced law for 20 years and owned my own small business, and I was elected to the state legislature in 2012, but that's a part-time gig. So while I was doing that for 6 years, I also managed my law practice, and still practice law.
Now, I always do research about my people, so he had a very successful small business. He was very successful in Congress here locally, and he is also a man of great faith. And I gotta say that really gives me some comfort and security that men of faith and women of faith are running our country, helping make the decisions that we do. So I want to get right into this. The congressman and I had quite a long conversation about this interview just a week ago, but things have changed so much, so we're going to try to adjust a little bit. Congressman, you were on the Committee on Small Business, and I was actually surprised when I talked to you how involved you were in corona preparations. It just never clicked for me, but it does make perfect sense. Give us a little indication of how that work has really involved you, and what are the things you've had to do to help prepare our state and the nation for this emergency.
Yeah, so kind of 2 sides to that as it relates to my work on the Small Business Administration, my experience as a small business owner. Obviously, my primary concern is going to be the safety of the American people, always has been, the safety of our constituents and our community right here in Central Florida. So we've been working with the CDC, with the administration, with our conference, with the body as a whole in the House, with local health departments, state health department officials, hospitals, and so forth, just to make sure that we're prepared, that our people are protected, that we're taking the steps necessary, as I said, first and foremost, to protect ourselves from the virus. And then the second thing is it relates to particularly my work on the Small Business Administration is making sure that from an economic standpoint that our small businesses we're looking out for them to the extent we can in a scenario like this when there's a lot in flux and a lot in play that we really don't know how things are going to kind of fall out. We want to do the best we can to prepare them, to support them. And so as it relates to the Small Business Administration, I've had an opportunity to file a bill here recently that I think we should talk about at some length, and then also to work with the members of the leadership in the House to make sure that the bills that we're passing in relief do address and protect small businesses.
And I think that's a big concern for a great many of us that follow government and follow politics. I understand just from the news this morning that you guys are already working on a third bill. You have worked quite tirelessly and exhaustively on a first and a second bill. When there is some thought that, are we going a little too fast, or are things going to be in those bills that we are not going to want in a year?
Yeah. That's a great question, Joe, and it's something that, frankly, I'm concerned about as well. I actually had an interview with Fox Business yesterday afternoon, and I was pretty pressed by one of the more, I guess, liberal members on the panel that was questioning me, and he was frankly just being very alarmist, I think, tending toward panic as it related to what we need to do fiscally and economically. And my point was, look, our first priority is to make sure the American people are safe. Let's see exactly how this is all going to unfold in the next week or two, and we'll know in a more prudent, wise, measured way about what needs to be done to support the American economy, including small business. So, yeah, it's a concern. Sometimes when you have these types, I can't remember who was that said this, but somebody said, never let a situation where panic exists to go to waste, right?
Never let a good crisis go to waste. That's right.
Never let a good crisis go to waste. And unfortunately, in the political process, sometimes we have individuals who will take advantage of those situations and will kind of put their hand into the grab bag of government to pull out for things, their little pet projects and so forth. So that's something we got to guard against, we got to protect against, and we're vigilant on that. But yes, there is a talk about a third bill. I don't think we'll go back to Washington, D.C. now for at least a couple of weeks, although frankly, if the stock market continues to plunge like it has over the last week or two, we may be forced to go back a little sooner and address the issue to calm the markets and the American people. But yeah, we can't overreact. We got to first protect the American people. Then, secondly, let's be prudent and wise to make sure that any kind of relief package specifically targets the industries that are impacted and doesn't go overboard, like you said, and then put us in a position in a year or so of thinking, why in the world did we do that? We compromised our system, and then we put the American people on the hook for literally billions and billions and billions of dollars of taxes moving forward for something that wasn't prudent. It is a balancing act, to be quite honest with you, though. You don't want to be caught flat-footed. You don't want to be caught after the fact saying, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And so leaders are very cautious about that, but we have to be wise. We have to be prudent. We can't overreact.
I think that, in retrospect to the last emergency, the financial meltdown of 07, 08, obviously that recovery took 7-8 years. And I think there's a perception that much of what the government did really didn't help. It extended the recovery. And I think that, and I'll use the bailout, all the bailouts. It turned out that those bailouts that were supposed to help the average American, didn't. It just helped a lot of fat cat. And I'm all for corporate fat cats. If you can get the job, if you can build the business, you earn it. But, the money that they gave would have been better spent. And I'll use, because I'm a realtor, the example of housing. That money would have been better spent paying down people's mortgages than bonusing out corporations for the banks. Would have solidified the market a whole lot sooner. We're just talking about the bills. I want you to talk extensively about particularly the two bills that are sitting there now. Is how are we preventing that this time around? Is getting some of that money more into the small guy that has 4 employees and maybe an air conditioning business, as opposed to the guy who has, $100 million worth of assets coming or income gross coming in every year.
Sure. So I think to your point, first of all, the bailouts that occurred in 2008, I didn't necessarily support those, and for me, it was a bailout of businesses that had made bad business decisions.
Exactly.
In this scenario, although I still don't, I'd have to see more to figure out whether what might be proposed is prudent. But we're talking about things that happened really due to no fault of any industry. The question is, from an economic and fiscal standpoint and a nationwide economic standpoint, what might be some targeted approaches that we can help to undergird and support some of the major industries. So, but the primary concern is the American people. The primary concern are folks on the street, small business owners particularly, who are least able to move on in even a month or two period where they don't have consistent income coming in. So, as it relates to the two bills that we mentioned and you just addressed concerning small business, the first thing that the first bill did was it created a program where small businesses have the ability to obtain low interest loans, bridge loans through the SBA, the Small Business Administration, literally millions and millions of dollars to address that. So I think it was a positive for small businesses and kind of ordinary people. The second bill, although I think it did what needed to be done in terms of addressing some of the concerns about the paid leave, for people to feel confident that they can take off work as we're trying to press down this curve of the transmission of the disease, which I think is important, which we can go into, to help people understand, hey, look, if you're feeling ill, if you have a family member that's ill, we don't want you coming to work. That's not going to help us press down this curve, this transmission curve. So we want to encourage our employers to provide this paid leave. However, my concern was, again, small business owners least likely to be able to meet these additional costs, especially when they don't have a workforce, especially when their income is down from the downturn in the economy. How in the world are they going to survive 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or longer? And so what the bill does, if those out there that are listening are not aware, is it actually allows the federal government, it requires the federal government to number one, pay those small businesses back or give them a credit back on their quarterly return. And if they can't afford to float those expenses during that 3-month period during the quarter, then there was guidance provided on Sunday night by Secretary Mnuchin that the Treasury will actually give forward money to small businesses to pay this paid leave to employees. Sorry for going on about this, but I had a couple of small business owners directly after the bill passed, and they said, "Holy cow, I can't last 3 months. I can't even last until I file my quarterly return. How in the world am I going to pay my employees paid leave?" So we're trying to balance the concern of making sure people feel okay to stay home and they're able to provide for their families with the small business owner concern. The way we've done that is to direct the Treasury Secretary to advance those funds if necessary.
You know, and that's a great point, because I think as I go about my day, and I talk to so many people, I'm very active in the chamber, so I meet with a lot of people. Actually, not this week. I've had a lot of cancellations, and I get it. But as I talk to people, it seems like the concern is, well, that's great. How do I access the money? You know, it's one thing, again, if you're a Duke Energy and you have a department designed with lawyers and accountants to know how to access. How does the average person access that money? Is it simply a call to the SBA or?
Yeah, so we're working out the details on that right now. We're going to be releasing, and believe it or not, the actual final bill has not even passed the Senate. That's expected to pass the Senate today and then go to the president. But we are preparing, my office, legislative office, is preparing a one-pager that we're going to be providing to small businesses in the district. We'll post it on our website within the next day or two, which gives very clear specifics on how small businesses can negotiate this law and how they'll have access to these funds. Another thing that's, I think, important to note is that there were some amendments to the bill. There were some changes that had been made last night, and they're going to be passed out in the Senate. And basically what those provisions say is that the Secretary of who is it? Let me just make sure I'm getting this correct. The Labor Secretary has the ability to make a decision with respect to employers under 50 employees. So we're talking about most of the small businesses that you and I know, right? In the chamber, if in fact their inability to pay even this sick leave for a period of 2 weeks would jeopardize the business as a quote-unquote going concern, then they would be exempted from the bill. They would be exempted from the requirement. So you may have a 1 or 2 man mom and pop shop, right? That just in the worst case scenario, they can't even negotiate they don't even, they don't, like you said, they don't have attorneys, they don't have accountants, they don't have anybody to help them know exactly what to do and where to go for the resources. There's an out for them if it would jeopardize their business as a going concern. So as you can see, we're trying to balance. We're trying our best to balance the safety and the welfare of the American people and families against the possibility that we're really damaging beyond measure small businesses.
It's, and I'm sure that, better you have the job than I do. Just thinking about it makes my brain hurt. I can't imagine what you guys are going through, up there in the seats of Washington there's a lot on you normally have a lot on your shoulders, but this actually has to increase that weight, I would imagine, by an order of magnitude, because every decision you're making, every vote is suddenly vitally important to the survival of the American people, or at least to our economy.
It is, and something else I've noticed is that usually whatever you do, there's going to be somebody that's unhappy.
Yeah.
You can try your best to weigh all the concerns, to balance all of the policy considerations, but inevitably, anything that you do is, in most cases, has some kind of an unintended consequence that you could never have imagined. So you just got to be light on your feet. You got to do your best to come back and address those. That may happen. Look, it may happen. But I can tell you that the United States Congress is more unified now, and I hope that's encouraging to the American people. It's sad that it has taken this crisis to cause us to act in a more bipartisan way, but it's more bipartisan than I've seen it since I've been there, for a year and a half. But yeah, the heaviness is something that does weigh on you, but nevertheless, this is what you're responsible for. This is what you agree to do when you sign up for the job. And I have received a tremendous amount of encouragement from folks in the district and constituents. So, but yeah, these are important times. I just want to encourage everybody. Like you mentioned from the very outset of the interview, a lot of people are some people are panicked. We've never seen this before. We're a little fearful. We're not, real sure how everything's going to play out. I'm confident we're going to be okay. We're going to be fine, okay? Let's prepare ourselves. Let's do what we need to do to make sure that we're protecting ourselves, that we're prepared for a worst-case scenario. But our economy is in a stronger place going into this than we've ever been, ever in my lifetime, all right? And so we're going to get through this. The economy will bounce back. There's going to be a downturn inevitably, but the economy will bounce back. We're in a better position than ever to survive this, and we will. We've survived much worse throughout our nation's history, but everybody's got to have a positive attitude. We got to be looking out for each other. And let's have all hands on deck to make sure we get through this.
And I appreciate, and as you pointed out before, this is a crisis not caused by any systemic failure or mistake. This is not something that has been born by bad choices. It's sometimes you get sick. Sometimes there's nothing even the healthiest guys in the world get sick sometimes. And so I think that probably is the kernel of hope I would like to think that everybody has. And of course, I know Monday morning quarterbacking, everybody in the world is going to criticize what happened. So just expect it. Hey, you talked about tax breaks already. And when you and I spoke the other day, you talked about some changes in regulations or suspension of regulations in the bill that you guys have done that you think will help advance the cause. Can you talk about that briefly?
Yeah, sure. A couple of the things that are proposed are an abatement or a temporary payroll tax holiday, so forth. So that would be basically the taxes that as employees we pay toward the government on every paycheck. And as you know, small business or employers have to match those payroll and taxes. So it would provide for an abatement of those, and the idea would simply be to try and infuse liquidity into the economy for a period of time. Another proposal I think will happen is an extension of the tax filing deadline on April 15th. I think that would provide a significant relief to folks, small businesses and individuals who might have a tax liability, not to have to worry with that for a period of time during the period of the crisis. And even something, frankly, that I've thought about the last few days, and I haven't really even heard anybody else talk about it, maybe a potential income tax abatement for a period of time. That would reach up to a certain amount. I'm not talking about abating income taxes for billionaires or millionaires,
right.
But for the common man, an abatement of income taxes that would actually keep more money in our pocket. And heck, might even help us understand how much money we're giving to the government. I think that'd be a pretty healthy thing, right?
Right.
So those are some possibilities. Mitt Romney has proposed a $1,000 tax, not a tax, but just a cash payment to every citizen in the United States. I'm not there yet, and I don't think that's going to be necessary. But there are some things that we can consider. I know that that there are some decisions that have been made, monetary decisions to lower interest rates. I think those are helpful, down to almost zero. The Federal Reserve has done that in the last few days. But we're going to need more than that probably. Again, however, going back to what we discussed earlier, whatever we do has got to be measured, it's got to be wise, it's got to be prudent, it's got to be targeted. It cannot be done loosely and put ourselves in an even more dangerous position financially, given the fact that we're already $23 trillion in debt.
Well, I think that the biggest concern of average Americans when they get beyond the initial, how am I going to get through this, is are we going to enter into permanent solutions for temporary problems? In some cases, we're still dealing in the housing market and in our economy with permanent solutions created by the CFPB and the Frank Dodd Act for something that should have been a temporary problem. Hey, we're starting to run out of time. I wanted to make sure I get on to the next subject. You also sit on the Transportation Committee, and you're on the subcommittees of Aviation and Highways and Transit. And I know that you've been able to bring some extra funding to Florida because our industries are so much more hit, and especially here in the South Lake area. So many of our residents work in hospitality in Orlando. We're certainly feeling the pinch of that. I have friends that work at big hotels like the Gaylord Palms, and their income is already affected because they're seeing cancellation after cancellation, Disney shutting down. Can you tell us a little bit about the effect of some of that and how you managed to get us some extra funding?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. We've got a couple of things that have taken place here in the district that we're working on diligently. We certainly have been successful in getting some FEMA money to reimburse municipalities and counties for their efforts for some of the crises that have taken place, hurricanes over the last several years. We've gotten some resources for transportation interests across the district. We are working with the airports to ensure right now that they're in a prudent position of protecting folks that are flying. But you mentioned transportation. Transportation is a big issue for Florida 15. I am telling you, I mean, we're on that corridor between Tampa and Orlando, which, if you've been here for any length of time, you're equally frustrated. I don't care whether you've got an R or a D or an I for independent in front of your name. You sit in traffic on I-4 every time you go back and forth. It's very frustrating. We have been incredibly, I think, reactive instead of proactive as it relates to transportation. So my number one priority as it relates to the district coming in was to ensure that we have the ability to be proactive as it relates to some of the decisions with regard to our district. We all know that this district is, you haven't heard, this may be news to you, the fastest growing region in the country over the next 20 years. The fastest growing region. That's a good thing. That's positive. We like that, right? We like growth, especially for realtors, for small business owners. We want new people to be moving here. But we've got to have the infrastructure and the system in place that's going to accommodate those people and not be reactive and going to be negative for business moving forward. So a little pull back the curtain on something here that many people may not know about. I'll just maybe 60-second explanation on this. Everybody knows earmarks went away. Earmarks were a bad thing because we had money that was being approved in the dead of night, in the dark, without the sunshine, for bridges to nowhere in Alaska, right? That was a bad process. What has happened, though, is now members do not have the ability to fight for and advocate for specific resources in the budget to address concerns in their district, and we have bureaucrats that are making those decisions. I don't think that's good either. The House of Representatives should have the power of the purse. As members of Congress, we should have the ability to advocate for and fight for the things that we need from a transportation perspective back home, right? So I think that we need to have the ability in the sunshine, file bills, have hearings, everybody scrutinize what we're asking for, But as members, we ought to be able to fight for specific allocations of resources. So hopefully we'll be able to bring not earmarks back, the process where members who should have the power of the purse have the ability to fight for things back in the district. And I am committed to doing just that.
Well, Congressman, I want to say thank you. Obviously for you're a freshman congressman, technically, right? You seem to have accomplished an awful lot, and you seem to have a real handle on what's going on. We are running out of time, so we'll be letting you go. And I want to say thank you for coming on and giving us your time. We know that you are in good hands. You're in our prayers and thoughts. What were you trying to tell me, Jay? Do you have any final thoughts? I did have two questions. Final thoughts, but I'd like to ask you, what do you see as our biggest challenge going forward? And what do you think we'll learn as a nation out of this? Will there be any changes that benefit us?
Good question. I think the biggest challenge going forward is to make sure that we keep our heads, right? That we don't allow fear and panic to govern our decision making as individuals, as leaders in the community, and as national leaders. That's the first thing. What we can learn moving forward is that we need each other. What we can learn moving forward is that we need to work together and stop being so politically divisive. It is killing us as a nation. We have to work together. We don't have to agree on everything. That's not going to work, right? We should have healthy party debate. But at the end of the day, we have to be about solving the American people's problems and not about gaining political advantage or power. That is something that has got to end. So I want to thank everybody thank you for allowing me to be with you, Joe, today. I'm always available. I want to encourage the people that are listening to go to our website, spano.house.gov. We've got resources there to the CDC, National Institutes of Health. And as I said earlier, within the next few days, we'll have resources there available to small business to help them negotiate what's going on with the crisis and what steps they can take and what things are available for them to help them stay above water. So thank you so much.
Well, and I just wanted to say really quickly that for those of us who joined late, you will be able to see the recording of this interview on YouTube within an hour, and by the afternoon we will upload this organically to Facebook. I'm sure the Congressman's people will be sharing it. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Congressman. We're going to go to a commercial break. Don't go away. I have a few thoughts for you when we get back. Congressman, thanks. I really appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, Joe. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors.
Life is better when you're smiling. At Modern Orthodontics, Dr. Alan Wong has changed thousands of lives helping patients achieve the modern smile with braces and clear aligners. Utilizing digital scanning technology, Modern Orthodontics creates in-office 3D models for clearly modern aligners. Modern Orthodontics is conveniently located in Claremont, Apopka, and Bushnell. Call or text us to schedule your free exam and create your modern smile today.
Your CBD store Claremont provides a wide range of high-quality, full and broad-spectrum CBD products. Topical creams, tinctures, water solubles, edibles, and even CBD products for your pets. From soil to oil, your CBD store Claremont sources and provides third-party lab tests for all products so that you know exactly what you're getting. Stop by your CBD store Claremont today to speak with one of our knowledgeable staff members to find the right CBD product for you.
50 West, pre-leasing now in Claremont. A first-of-its-kind commercial development in the Southeast. Contact us today to reserve your spot in this historic development. 50 West, unique, quality, Class A. For more information on leasing, contact Ashley Punn at 407-403-4165. Karen Arlano at 407-948-0767. Or visit lease@50west.com.
Burgerum, located in the Epic Theater shopping plaza on Highway 27, is the premier destination for gourmet burgers. Using only the freshest ingredients, Burgerum offers a variety of burgers, salads, wings, and a whole lot more. beef, chicken, lamb, fish, and even veggie. Burgerum has something for everyone, no matter your dietary preference. Burgerum, millions of possibilities, endless combinations.
Joe Knows South Lake would like to thank the following sponsors. Hey, folks, just a couple of quick things. I wanted to reiterate Congressman Spano's thoughts about not freaking out. The worst thing you can do at a time like this is lose your mind. I understand it's stressful. I understand there's anxiety, and I have a solution for you. You know, today I was going to talk about journaling and confession, but you know what? I'm going to put some of these processes off. We might talk about journaling over the next couple of weeks. I'm already struggling to keep the schedule full because people cancel on me. You know, and I understand. Hey, I'm cool with it. I'm disappointed, but I'm not upset. The thing I want to encourage you to do is, like I talked about yesterday, start each day, especially in these times of worry and angst, start each day with a list of gratitude. Look, maybe you don't do 3 things. Maybe you got to do 10 things. Maybe you got to dedicate yourself to writing an entire note page of things you are grateful for and why. This will help you keep your head. This will help you get perspective on what's going around. I want to encourage you that you live in the United States of America in 2020, literally the best place on earth in the entire human history, in the entire history of all mankind. There is no better place to recover, to prosper, to get and protect your family. Don't kid yourselves. Look at the maps of the coronavirus going up on all these news stations. Did you notice something? They always list these by color in the number of cases in a country. And what I've noticed is countries that are occupied by dictators and communist countries. How is all of Russia only have 10 cases? How does all of South Korea have less than 10 cases, or North Korea have less than 10 cases? How does all of Venezuela have less than 10 cases? They lie. Look, you live in a country that tells you the truth, and sometimes that can be scary. But you don't have to be afraid. Turn to your faith leaders. Turn to your own faith. And if you don't have a faith, well, call me. You can reach out to me. I'm sure Jay has my information up. I'll have a cup of coffee with you. I ain't sick. You ain't sick. We don't have to sit in a big public crowd. We can get our coffee somewhere and sit outside. So we are the healthiest we can be. Look, there's no reason to lose your mind. We will get through this. And it ain't going to take years. It's only going to take months. You can guarantee that. Let me see. What did I talk about? Journaling. I just want to thank Congressman Spano. We're a small station. We're just getting started. And he carved out an entire half hour for us. I really appreciate that thought process. And I would encourage any other elected officials who would like to speak on this subject, reach out to me. Have your people reach out to me. If you know somebody in an elected official's office and you think it'd be a good idea, reach out to them to reach out to me, or reach out to me with a number and I'll reach out to them. If you know somebody that should be a guest on Joe Knows South Lake, let me know. This is a perfect time because I have openings. Finally, I just want to say, do not discount the power of prayer. And while I am not going to preach at you, you have to know by now I am a man of great faith. And I pray over everything. I actually pray over you guys every day. Now, I may not know the names of each one of you, but I pray for you. And I pray for the people in my life, and I pray for this nation. I want to encourage you. Turn to prayer. Sometimes it's the only relief you can get. All right, well, with that said, I don't want to go on too long. Congressman Spano has spoken, and I just don't want to take away from what he said. Like I said, if you know somebody that should be a guest on Joe Knows South Lake, please, please, please reach out to me with the information below. If you know somebody that should be branding their business here on South Lake TV, And here's the key. If you have customers in South Lake, you should be branding your business on South Lake TV. Top of mind is very, very important. And we are clearly simply the most inexpensive advertising we are more inexpensive than want ads in a newspaper. Okay. You cannot get advertising for the price we charge anywhere at any price. Let me see. I said that. Oh, and as Congressman Spano was doing, using his greatness to bring out the greatness in others, I want to encourage you. Use your greatness, and there is a greatness inside you, to bring out the greatness in others. Touch a life. You'll change the world. You may never see the change, but it'll change nonetheless. This has been Joe Carlisle and Congressman Ross Spano on Joe Knows South Lake. I will see you tomorrow, and I love you. Bye-bye. My name is Joe. 20 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lake County with our 4 young children and settled down. In that time, we've worked, worshiped, played, and raised our family. Today, I've met the people and discovered the businesses and organizations that make up a vibrant, dynamic community. Join us as we share with you what makes South Lake great. I'm Joe, and Joe knows South Lake.